I know you have at least 2 songs with over 1 million streams each. Going back to the first song you said that hit 1 million, you were 15
Yeah.
when you did that? I also love how you talk about just like moving around and learning how to perform on stage.
I took some acting classes for like a couple years, and that also helped a lot because you get over yourself. You know, you get over the worry that you look silly or you're going to embarrass yourself.
Your manager worked with Maxwell, you said. What kind of lessons have you learned from your manager in general?
I have learned that
this is They're Good at That Shit, where I talk to musicians about what they're doing really well. My guest today has songs, yes, songs plural, each with over 1 million streams. Kate Grahn.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's jump into it. I know you have at least 2 songs with over 1 million streams each. So let's talk about that. Was there any strategy that you used for Spotify? And we're talking about Spotify here. For Spotify to kind of help those songs grow, maybe marketing with Facebook ads, just TikTok campaigns, anything?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So the first one that hit 1 million was the song called Loves Me Not.
Yep.
And that was when I was like 15.
Oh, wow.
And my friend Will J, he's an incredible songwriter, and he and I wrote that song and released it. And he was in a boy band at the time, and he has a fan base, and so I think they just like really, really loved the song. And I love the song. It's different than the stuff I put out now.
Right.
But yeah, that was the first one to hit 1 million. And then the second and final was a song I put out, I think in 2022, called Honestly I'm Disappointed.
Yep.
And you know what? Actually, I wrote that one with Will too.
Oh, wow.
Oh, maybe he's the secret sauce.
Will is the key.
I'm going to hit you up, Will.
Yeah, it sounds like writing songs with Will is the key.
That's the key. That's the strategy, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, I think I just did a Spotify pitch like I do for all of them, wrote something, and I didn't expect anything from it, but it got on like Fresh Finds Pop, and Salt. Salt's the one that really like helped it out. And it was on there for a while, and then I think because of that, it got seen by a lot of people, and then people put it in their own playlists, and then over time it just hit 1 million. But yeah, that there was no strategy really for that. It was just I did my own, social media, posting photos, hired my friend Annie to take photos, and yeah, that's kind of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you said you just basically did the Spotify editorial playlist pitching.
Yeah. So you should do that, honestly, with all streaming platforms. Apple has it. I think Amazon Music has it. But yeah, there's if you go to Spotify for artists, you pitch your song, you just fill out the genre, the mood, the vibes, the instruments, and then you write your pitch essentially saying what the song's about, maybe what feelings, you get, or like what it brings out in you. And yeah, it's super random when you're, at least when you're like an independent unsigned artist. It's you just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Yeah.
I mean, because I've done that before. I've done those submissions and never got any on any of the editorial playlists. So, but in your case, it's like you never know what's gonna be the one.
Yeah.
And I feel like the last couple songs, I think I've forgotten to do it, but I need to like get back in the habit of just doing it every time, because you never know. Yeah.
I mean, you definitely won't get on it if you don't do it. And like, you might get on it. Like the last 2 songs I've put out have not been playlisted. The one before that was like a cover on Tidal Rock, and then like maybe I think an Apple Music. But yeah, no, Spotify is tough. They're all tough.
Yeah.
I wish I had answers for you. I think a lot of it has to do with like, relationships, and it's who you know as well. And a lot of the people that are on the playlist currently will probably be on it next time they have a release as well. But I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And going back to the first song you said that hit 1 million, you were 15 when you did that?
Yeah. We wrote it and then I sang it and then I think he produced it and I think that's like why I had to sign up with a PRO. I didn't even know anything about anything. So, my voice sounds way younger. And it sounds very musical theater because I have a lot of that in me. I'm a theater kid.
Okay.
But having gone to school for like pop music, definitely has changed my sound a lot.
Okay.
But I always have that theater in me.
Yeah. Now I was gonna say that song definitely gives me like Disney movie kind of vibes. Have you looked into like getting that place at all? Like any kind of type of sync opportunities?
No, I haven't. But honestly, it's because I just haven't thought about the song in so long because it was over 10 years ago. Wow. But when I get home, I'm gonna be like, anyone want to use this? Anyone want to license this song?
No, totally. I mean, yeah, you totally should.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could definitely hear it in a Disney movie or a Lifetime movie or, you know what I mean? Something like that. So,
yeah, and I've gotten that before. Yeah. So I definitely need to investigate that further.
Yeah, you should definitely look into that for sure. Okay. Also wanted to talk to you about social media as well.
My favorite topic.
Is it really or no?
My manager is so funny. Anytime he's a conversation or meeting with anyone, he's just like, all right, Kate's in here for the music. She hates social media.
Wow. Okay.
And that's not a good thing to hate in this day and age because it is like a form of currency.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were you saying? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Well, first, before we do that, you just mentioned you have a manager. How did you go about finding a manager? I feel like that's something that a lot of artists don't. I heard they don't have managers. Maybe some are looking for a manager. How did you kind of navigate that?
My mom met him at the dog park.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So she and him kind of became friends while he was not my manager at the time. But the reason they started talking was obviously dogs. They both had dogs.
Okay.
And then they started talking about politics because my mom's a huge liberal and so is my manager.
Okay.
And they were talking about their shared hatred of Trump. And eventually he started talking about how he used to work in the music industry. And my mom immediately, started talking about how her daughter, is a musician, and one thing led to another. And he used to manage like Maxwell, and obviously that's not me, but
wow.
But he was in the industry for like 30 years and then dipped because it's tough, it's you have to
Absolutely.
like love, I guess maybe like who you're working with, what you're doing.
For sure.
But yeah, so he kind of just like watched from afar with how I was managing myself because I had like no team. And he came to shows for like a couple years. And then in one show he was just observing. And then one show in New York, actually, he was in town and he came and he was like, can we talk after the show? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he was like, okay, you're ready. He's like, if you want me to help you, if you want me to manage you, I would love to do that because, I believe in you and I think you can really do this. But I think he was waiting for me. He didn't want to get involved just because my mom was like, my daughter's a musician. He was like, all right, bet, let's see, because it's one thing if your mom wants you to do something, it's another thing if they can see that you want it.
100%.
And I want it. And so, and my mom was she knows that. So she was just,
doing what moms do.
Yeah, proud mom moment. But, but he, I think, wanted to see that I wanted it and I was driven and willing to work hard, with no like outcome promised. And yeah, so I was like, yeah, great. And we've now worked together. I think this is year 2.
Okay.
So this is on our second year. And we've already like done so much.
Awesome.
And we've already started like building a team around me, and just people who like him believe in me and want to help because they think that there's something there, and not people that are just like looking to get paid. Because I mean, not anymore because I have tendonitis, but I was working at a restaurant serving, like using that to pay for music, And listen, I have a safety net. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. And I'm very, very lucky, but my mom's, when all the kids in high school were getting cars, mom was like, buy your own. And I did eventually. So, yeah, music is expensive.
Yeah, 100%.
So when you have people that believe in you and want to help develop you, that's incredible because no one's doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that is huge. The first thing I wanted to point out about that whole story was that you never know who's watching.
Never know.
You never know who's watching. And so, it would behoove you to just keep on your grind and keep doing your thing and stay focused because you never know what can happen.
Yeah. I played a gig once years ago at this like private club, and it was really weird. And there were like 3 people in the like listening, and like listen, I've played to a chair before. Like, you do what you got to do. It's practice. It's practice. If I had never had those experiences, and then they were like, okay, now play at this like theater with 1,000 people watching you, I'd be like, I don't have any stage presence yet. I don't know how to do that. But that's why you play. You work your way up. But yeah, so there was a guy there, and he since then is still like a big like fan of my music, which is so sweet. And the other day it was having a conversation with me, talking about something he was developing and thinking about casting me for something. And so I was like, oh my God, you really don't know who's there, and you never know when it's gonna come back around.
Yep.
Which is why it's also good to always be nice and professional, because you also never know, you might think someone is like, oh, but they're just the bartender here. And it's like, all right, well, he might be your boss in a few years. I don't know. You just never know.
Yeah, you really don't know. And I also love
just
that
be nice.
You said, 100%, be nice, be professional. You also said that every show is an experience, or even if it's 2 people, a chair, like it's a chance to get reps and to get better at what it is that you do.
Yeah, I think that's the whole reason why, my manager Eric, he didn't necessarily think I was ready when I, the 2 years prior, because maybe I was still a little hesitant on stage. And then when he saw me 2 years later, he was like, oh, she's figured it out. Because you have to you need to, I think songwriting is like one of the most important things. If you don't have a good song, then you don't, have a good show necessarily.
Yeah.
But so the song is everything. But I think, I went to school for vocal performance. And when I first started, I was hoping, because I used to use like my guitar as a crutch so I didn't have to like move around, so I could just stay at the microphone. Like growing up when I was in a band. And at school, I was there for voice. There were other people. I mean, I could play guitar, sure, but there were other guitar majors, so they're going to play, you're going to sing. And I was like, that means I have to move. And I have, I figured it out, and you do it because your teachers are telling you to. And but I think right now there's a lot of people who get discovered who might be extremely talented, and that's amazing. But with social media, you're not performing to a live audience, and it's extremely different to perform to your camera alone in your room than it is to perform to an audience. And I think sometimes someone will get signed because of their social media, and then they'll have to play a show, and then sometimes the people that sign them are like, this isn't what we signed up for, and then it's like, well, yeah, because
they haven't done that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's no hate, like,
yeah,
you know, if you can get signed, if you can play a show for a bunch of people, like, great. And some people also can just immediately do it. They're like born performers. But I think that there is something to be said about having to take the steps to, you know, it's like any sort of new skill, like becoming a dancer. Like, I'm going to take beginner ballet before I am on point, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there's levels to this shit, as they say. I also love how you talk about just like moving around and learning how to perform on stage. Like, you know, it's like I play keys, and that can definitely be a crutch too, because you know, because with guitar, it's easier to move around. Yeah, but with keys, it's like you're kind of stuck. You're locked. Yeah. So, you know, when I play,
that's when you get a guitar.
Yeah. Well, I play full band shows, and I usually get another keyboard player. I get somebody else to play the keys so that I can, you know, roam around and interact with the crowd and do that sort of thing. Yeah. So I advise any, you know, keys players out there, if you're doing like a full band thing, especially like a bigger, you know, thing. If it's a smaller room, like, cool, whatever. But like a bigger, you know, kind of full band thing, like maybe you get somebody else to play keys, so you can kind of at least learn that skill to be able to, you know, kind of roam around, interact with the crowd, you know.
I also think that not only just doing it to get better, but during the pandemic, I took some acting classes for like a couple years, and that also helped a lot, because you get over yourself, you know, you get over the worry that you look silly or you're going to embarrass yourself, because when you are crying in front of, like, on stage in front of a bunch of strangers, then you realize that, like, oh, maybe if I walk to stage left, it's not going to be the end of the world. So yeah, acting classes, I think, also really helped, just kind of like let loose.
There you go. Pro tip for anybody looking to get over some acting. Of the stage fright or whatever it is. Like just kind of general help with your performance skills. Maybe some acting classes.
Specifically Meisner.
Okay. Meisner, what is?
It's just a technique. Sandy Meisner was a teacher.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
we look into Meisner acting technique.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like social media is one of those things that kind of helped me loosen up, just because, like, and especially talking about things that I was afraid to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, like vulnerable things. And for me, like, doing that, because now like you said, I don't take myself too seriously, and like I can talk about whatever on stage. I can talk about, you know, I'm not really afraid to really do anything or say anything, you know.
But it's like most people need to have those baby steps. And I think, like, that's what one of the great things about social media too, is that you can express yourself without, you know, maybe you have stage fright. Maybe you don't want to jump right on stage the first time. Like, it's a great way to express yourself in a way that you have control over, which I think is super important.
So while we're here on social media, I wanted to ask you about social media, because you have some videos. I know you have one video on TikTok that has over 700,000 views as of now, at least. Another one has over, I want to say, 180,000. TikTok specifically, is there anything? And another thing I'll point out is that these are TikToks where your music is involved. Like you're singing, your music's involved. And I think that is difficult to get a video on a social media platform to get multiple views, or to get, you know, hundreds of thousands of views when your music is also incorporated. Because I feel like a lot of times it's either you hop on some trend that really has nothing to do with your music. And, a lot of times people can get some eyeballs on their content that way. But getting something to getting something to get a lot of views that actually has your music involved is very hard. Yeah,
it's so funny. Sometimes I feel like TikTok is like personally attacking me, and I know that it's everyone who's trying to do it too.
Right.
But it's so funny because it's like it's too perfect. It's like I will post something that has nothing to do about my that has nothing to do about my music, and then it's like viral. And then the minute I'm like, oh, let me hop on this, and then I just steered a little bit towards my music, and then it's like you have 2 views, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same thing with the playlisting, unfortunately, is I don't really have a strategy. I find, again, those videos that you're talking about, I think one was the Harry Styles one, and the other one was me talking about medication, sort of. Mm-hmm. Those 2 specifically were, very authentic, and me just being, like, real.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is those ones I was like, ugh, it's like these aren't working. So I was like, I'll just put this one up. And then that one did well. Do you know what I mean? It's the one that you're not, if you put so much work into one and then it like doesn't do well. And then if I just like throw something up because I'm like tired of this, then of like that one will do well.
Yeah.
It's like the least amount of effort ones.
Yeah.
Right now, because social media just like makes me very frustrated sometimes, especially because with the last song that I had put out, the incels found me. So all of them, like, if you were not familiar with the word incel, it's you do. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say it's men who've never felt the touch of a woman and hate women for that. But they found me and they were just like, you're horrible at music, and they're like, you're not even playing the guitar. And I'm like, it's a fucking bass line. That's why, you twat. Sorry.
You're good. You can say whatever you want.
But yeah, so, and not that, honestly, like, not that stuff bothered me, because you would look at their profile and it's like, Trump's face. But it's more just, I'm like, I don't like the energy. I don't like if there's any sort of negative energy surrounding something that was music, which is such a escape for me, but it has become something of the opposite sometimes. Yeah. But because of that, I actually have been working with this woman named Liv and her company called Market Music. Shout out. Okay. And she has helped me, I just pay her a little bit a month. And that's like honestly, that's like what I will say is, if you're going to put your money into something, like I put it into social media, because not even necessarily because I'm like, now it's getting millions of views. It's honestly just because I'm protecting myself. I'm protecting my mental health, because when I'm scrolling, you have to scroll in order to figure out what you need to be posting. And you have to scroll in order to get your algorithm to match what you're trying to consume. Yes. Exactly. And for what other people are going to consume too. Right. And because of that, I'm like, it is worth anything for someone else to just take over my YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm like, here you go. I will be reading on my Kindle. Okay. I'm like, and it's not because I'm not passionate about the songs I make and I don't want to share it with people. I just would rather do that in a live setting. Yeah. I'd rather play a show. And again, that is no like shade to anyone who has made social media their career and it's working for them. That's amazing. Yeah. I wish I had that skill set. I just don't. It's not something that I'm passionate about. It's not something that I've been wanting to spend my time doing, even though I know it is necessary. So yeah, I kind of, the things I spend my money on are genuine therapy, like literal therapy, and then someone else to do my social media so that I don't need to go to therapy twice a week.
Understood. No, and I think that is actually very smart. And it's one of those things, like I listen to a lot of, podcasts, and it's some of them related to like business, for example. And one of the things they talk about is leverage. And one of the ways that you do that is by hiring people to do the things that you don't necessarily want to do, because then you can spend your time doing other things and perfecting what it is that you're actually already good at. So then you get really good at what you're already good at. And then you have somebody else kind of handle some of the other things that maybe you're not so good at, or maybe you don't want to deal with.
Yeah. And sometimes my priorities switch. Like sometimes, I was putting money into working with a producer that I really wanted to work with, or putting money into visuals, a music video, this photographer, blah, blah, blah. But recently I've just been doing a lot more DIY stuff. Like, in the last music video I did, when I did the photo shoot, I just asked her, I'm like, can you just roll? And I'm just going to go through the song twice. And then I edited it. And, because at the stage that I'm at, I don't necessarily need this like huge production for visuals. And so that's why right now I'm prioritizing someone just handling social media, because I'm prioritizing my mental health is really what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think also like with social media, or with like just getting somebody else to do something that you are not necessarily passionate about, like, then it frees you up to write songs, or to, write music, or,
Yeah, it's actually crazy how much time and effort is put into making like one TikTok. Because that's why it's people's careers, because you don't have time to do anything else.
Right.
So for me, especially when I'm like, working as well, like other jobs, the last thing I want to do is go home and do something I'm not passionate about in relation to music. Because then that means that music is not a safe space for me anymore. It's not me going home and writing about something that happened and being healing. It's, I have to make this TikTok to promote this song. Yeah. And then it's just, I'm like, that's not why I want to be a musician.
Sure.
But I understand that it is crucial.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
So but that's good that because I feel like a lot of times independent artists, things that they're not passionate about, they just kind of fall to the wayside and they just don't do it. But that's cool that you recognize, okay, this is important. I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to deal with it, but I know it is vital. So let me hire somebody to handle this for me so that it still gets done. Yeah.
And you sometimes have to find the right like person or company, because there's a lot of people out there that are charging a lot of money, which nothing against that. That's make your, what is it? Get your bag.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Bag, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Get your bag.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also don't have that. So you kind of, that's again about like finding your team, is finding the people that want to work with you, but also like, pay them for their time. And I also think it's important then to make sure that, if things, start growing and, there's labels or anything, it's like, try to take your team with you. Like, don't just be like, bye. I know that that's like a lot, more difficult than I'm just making it sound, and complicated, but I think that it's important to like have a lot of loyalty with the people that have been with you from the start.
Yeah, for sure. I also wanted to ask you about your manager. I wanted to go back to that because your manager worked with Maxwell, you said. What kind of lessons have you learned from your manager in general? Yeah.
I have learned that I don't need to handle everything anymore, because I was so used to handling everything, having the difficult conversations with people, when it talked about money, when it talked about anything. And he has reminded me several times saying, you go do the creative stuff. I will handle this. I will push people when they need to be pushed. I will send, I'll let you know if you have to send thank yous. I'll let you, he's really good at keeping relationships too. Like that's why the people he, worked with 30 years ago who are, still in it, and when I meet them, they're like happy to meet me because they have a good relationship with my manager, because he doesn't burn bridges. He doesn't, even if it's not a relationship that he wants to keep or anything, he's very good at being like respectful and kind to everyone, which I think is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to ask you about, sorry, I'm jumping around.
No, please.
Market Music. What exactly are they doing for you?
So it's mainly this girl named Liv, and she's based in New York.
Okay.
And it's her company, and she basically will set up like a schedule of, and she posts for me, like the actual like feed posts and reels and stuff. I'm on my stories and I'm, DMing and stuff, but she will post for me, and basically I just have to write captions and approve photos and then film it, which is very funny because sometimes my manager will, message her saying, hey, like, you haven't posted on TikTok in a minute. And she's like, yeah, Kate hasn't sent me shit. And I'm like, my bad. Because again, it's like, that's not the thing that I like doing.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's something that I'm still like getting used to.
Sure.
Because I like to think I'm a pretty hard worker. But it's something about like having to film self promo stuff is tough. Is tough. But it's very nice that she's created like a space where I don't have to think too hard.
Yeah.
I can focus my energy on the creative, like on writing and performing, and yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So you basically, there's kind of a schedule, and you're kind of working together, and she's posting, and
yeah. So she kind of creates this sort of like outline. And when I send her the videos for it, she'll like upload them with captions or something that I either have to approve or I'll like write for her. And she's like, I need this. And she'll tell me exactly what she needs, which is perfect. Because that's like growing up, I was like a straight A student because they were assignments. But then when it came to like a lot of self-motivation, it was tougher because I was like, I'm so used to having to like do things that people are telling me to do. And then you get so exhausted by that. By the end of the day, you're like, oh, I have to make myself do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's cool, and it's just nice to have, it's just nice to know that someone's like in your court.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing that you said that is very important is that, and I think it's the thing that a lot of people struggle with, is that when you, specifically if you have like a full-time job or whatever, and then you have to come home and then film TikToks or work on music, or that is difficult. But I've heard people say, like some of these successful business people that I listen to sometimes, it's like, it's not about what happens in your 9 to 5, is what you do from 5 to 9, and so like, just kind of remembering why it is that you're here. I know for me, because people ask me all the time, like, how do you, you have a full-time job, but you're always, doing music stuff too. How do you like do it? And I think it's just really just remembering like why I'm here. Like this is what I'm here to do. So, and the, the job helps fund the studio time and the mixing mastering. As you said earlier, it's expensive as fuck. It all adds up. So, I have the job and it helps fund this, but I also know that when I get off, I have to do my job that I want to be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just have to I just keep that in mind, so
Yeah.
even when I'm tired, I just have to.
I think it all comes back to how badly do you want this,
Yep.
And I think that's why my manager was observing for a while, because he was like, I don't want her to audition for me. I don't want her to try to prove that she wants this, because then I'll help her, I think. Because I didn't even know that was on the table.
Right.
So I think that it was wise of him to not say anything and for me to just keep doing what I was doing. And then when he saw that, I meant business.
Yeah.
That's when he kind of locked in. But I think, you have to want it, and you have to be driven. And it doesn't mean that like sometimes you can have breaks where you're not doing anything, and slumps and creative blocks and depression. But you go back to it because it's what you want to do, and it's the only thing I'm good at. So I'm like,
I hear you. And you are good indeed. And that's why you're here. One of the things I definitely wanted to ask you about was vocals. And you mentioned earlier that you had vocal training. You went to school specifically for it. I have to say, the first time I heard you sing live at Hotel Cafe, I just remember you doing a song where the hook is just this crazy vocal run.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy shit, that is like impressive.
Thank you. That's really nice.
Was there anything in school specifically that they taught you that kind of equipped you to do, or were you is that just natural, or are there other things that you specifically worked on to get so good at those? The vocal run specifically was very impressive.
I have been singing since I was like a child. I have always been able to sing. I didn't start getting like vocal training until college.
Okay.
And he actually just he's still working at his own studio, but he just retired from USC. But Jeffrey Allen was the vocal teacher there, and he is absolutely amazing. Like completely, it just 100% improved my voice. And also taught me a lot about how to emotionally like perform a song, not just like regurgitate lyrics, but like, what are you singing? Why are you singing it? What are you thinking about? What's your inner monologue? But I definitely got a lot of training and knowledge about how my voice worked, and how to even I didn't have a mix. I didn't know how to use my mix, and it took so long learning how to do that in college. But once I got it, it's opened so many doors. It means I don't necessarily have to belt for how many hours I'm singing. I don't know, and a lot more control over my voice. Whereas growing up, I was either 0 or 100. I was head voice or belting my ass off. And that was very impressive. But I think I also learned in school that sometimes my deeper and my softer moments are even more impactful sometimes. Especially if I've already shown that I can do that. It's if I'm a one-hit wonder kind of belter, it's all right, we get it, let's move on. But I think it's showing that you have more in your toolbox than what people may perceive, and that's how someone is trained. I actually just left from teaching a student. Because that's one of the many jobs I have. Okay. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without having knowledge of how to sing. And in terms of just the ability, I honestly that's when I made the joke earlier, but I'm not really kidding. I'm this is I have to do this because this was this talent that I was born with. And that sounds weird to say. I'm this talent I was born, but listen, I'm shit at sports, but I'm good at this. So, whereas like, songwriting was something that I took all the songwriting classes that all the songwriting majors took in school too. And that's something that I didn't immediately know how to do.
Right.
I actually wrote Ragdoll in college. And that was, I think, probably the first song I wrote where I was like, okay, I'm getting something. I'm getting somewhere, but I love writing with people and collaborating because I'm always learning. One of my favorite things to do is really struggle with finding lyrics that work when you can't figure it out and you're writing with someone. I don't like to do that when I'm alone. Then I just get frustrated and like, and then watch TV. I don't know. But I really like struggling with someone about that. And then we're like, okay, let's just go take a walk. And then you come back and you're like, oh my God, duh. It's right there, because it feels so good when you figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that to say is that was something that I am still like learning and always going to get better at. Same with singing. Like I'm, if I don't sing for a while, I'm like, oh God, I'm out of shape. But yeah. And runs also, like, this is extremely niche, but I grew up watching the show Victorious on Nickelodeon, and I remember Ariana Grande was on it. And they did this one song where Ariana Grande goes like, whatever. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and trying to do it and just going, like really slowing it down until like I finally got it. And I was like, oh shit. Like, oh, my guitar teacher had a point when he said, you can't just do it fast. You're not going to get, because I was always so impatient with guitar.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't want to do the scales slow. I just want to shred. And he's like,
right.
Yeah, right. We all do.
Yeah.
But with singing, I was a lot more patient, I think, because I had more confidence in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, riffing is something I think that just comes with practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said. Just slow it down, you know, like, and because, people have asked me about riffing before and yeah, I think one of the, and I'm not you at all.
And I'm not Yeba, like.
But
and I've heard you sing. Yes, you are. Oh my God.
Stop. But I was just gonna say, like, riffing, yeah, definitely slowing it down and, kind of taking it note by note can definitely help you improve your vocal runs. Another thing that I love that you said was basically, you talked about kind of always learning and, kind of realizing that you don't know everything. And I think it's just the value of a good coach or the value of education. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's important for, all musicians out there to kind of just make sure that you're constantly sharpening your toolbox, adding to the toolbox. You talked about that too. That's just super, super important. And
you can always, sign up for a class. You can always, like, there's a class in Santa Monica where you can take for sight reading, for sight singing. And also the thing about riffing too is, like, some people are just really good at theory, and that might be your avenue for figuring out a riff and a run because there's theory involved. For me, I'm more, I can hear it.
Yep.
But that's the other thing. You have to kind of figure out, if there's not one way to go about something. And the other thing about, like, getting an education is I definitely don't think that you need to have a music degree to be a musician at all.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. It's not accessible to everyone.
Right.
And I think that for me specifically, yeah, I had a lot to learn music wise, but I just also wasn't ready to be thrown into the music industry yet at 18. I thought I was like, oh, I can do this. And now that I'm like, once you're in it, you're like, oh my God, she would have died out there. Like she would, I wasn't ready. I wasn't experienced enough. I wasn't confident enough. And I think that is not only obviously the actual, musical education I got, but just the experiences, the people I met, the people I, musical, the people I still work with because I met them in school. Some of my best friends too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right on. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, going back to social media, I saw on Instagram you had a reel with about 83,000 views, I want to say. And I think that one in particular, it was also one of your songs. You performed one of your songs. And I think if I had to guess as to why that got, tens of thousands of views.
Is it the La 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 one?
Yes. I would say, I think it was probably you probably struck a very relatable chord, not chord in terms of, chord of music, but, striking a chord with people. I'm sure, a lot of women out there have been, mansplained, or like some dude try to tell you, oh, you don't look like you play guitar or whatever. And so I think that probably may have had something to do with it. What would you say that was?
Actually, the reason I'm laughing is because it's the opposite.
Really?
That was what I was talking about, where it is the weirdly 17-year-old boys
and
that's
the one over there.
Yeah, I have had over 200 comments of people being like, "You suck." Wow. You're bad at music. You're trash. You're Olivia Rodrigo. And I was like, comparing me to someone who's won Grammys is not an insult. But okay.
Right.
But it was so funny because I'm like, the message of the song is going right over your head.
Yeah.
It is so. I'm like,
I couldn't have my point.
I couldn't have made this. It couldn't have been better. I'm like, you guys, that's the fucking point.
Right.
And they're like, because in the visual I have a guitar in my lap, and the line is, he said, "You don't look like the type of girl who can play the guitar." And they're like, "Well, you're not playing it." And I'm like, it's a fucking bass line. But I'm not, competing with these people.
Yeah.
One guy made me his Instagram bio. It just says @KateGrahn's music sucks. And I'm like, thanks for the free promo.
No,
I'm like,
I wanted to say, I was going to say earlier when you were talking about that, I remember around the time, during the pandemic, and the George Floyd thing happened, and I did a cover of a song that was basically, it was kind of like a Black Pride type of song, and I did a cover of it, and I posted it on Facebook, and it was just so many, just
racist.
It was so many comments whoa, what if I did a White Lives Matter song, and you know what I mean? And so,
oh my God, I forgot about that whole period of time where it was like, but Allah. I'm like,
but I was gonna say, my point is that I just kind of look at those as thank you, you're helping my video get more views.
But
appreciate
that's
you.
why that's why it was so funny. You're like, I think a lot of women really. I was like, no, it literally they hated me, so it kept boosting the the algorithm kept going to more of those types of people. Yeah. So it just kept getting, and I was like, okay, whatever. I eventually did. I think for that video, the comments are turned off now because once it hit a certain point, I was like, that's good. Yeah. I'm like, I don't need to be called fat anymore. I'm I'm good.
Yeah. No,
but yeah, I was like, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. I know that this is not your intention and you want me to die, but
yeah. That's why I try to just, kind of shift, my thinking around when people are, leaving hate comments, stuff like that. It's like, well, appreciate you.
Well, also think about the type of person that would do that. Have you ever had, when you're scrolling, have you ever seen something that you didn't really enjoy and then had the desire to comment negatively on it? No. You just scroll past.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
That you have the time for that. I'm like, I'm busy.
Right. Yeah, totally. Kate Grahn.
On that note.
Thank you so much for joining
Women
me.
Love me. Gays love me. The theys love me. Men hate me. I'm just kidding.
No, I'm a man, and I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
So, fuck all those guys. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I know people will get a lot out of it, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching They're Good at That Shit. If you enjoyed what you heard, definitely hit that like button. Also, subscribe because that would mean a lot to us. And if there's something in particular that you found valuable, definitely let us know in the comments. We'll catch you next time, all right?